All right, all right, all right. I think we're live. We're here. Everybody, I'm Ross Angola to the far right.
And I'm Jenna, and welcome to
People Talking Kali. Yes, and if this is your first time tuning into the show, People Talking Kali is a non-political platform where we're here to discuss our shared interest and passion in this beautiful combat system, Pekiti and Kali. Regardless of who your teacher or instructor was or where your camp is, if you love PTK, this is the show for you. And if you're not a PTK practitioner specifically, but you're interested in what we do, we hope this show will give you a little bit more information about our culture and community and why we train the way we train. So welcome. All right. Today, folks, yes, a great honor tonight, a great honor in the house to have a PTK legend and guardian whose schedule is often very busy. So he was able to take the time to be here and talk with all of us. When I first began training with now Tuhon Ballarta, I would hear the name Erwin Ballarta often because Tuhon had such great respect for this man, and we'll talk about the early days while training with GT. Then I would hear his name very, very much in the community, not only for his incredible PTK skill and talent, but for what he's done to and for the law enforcement community, and his passion to make sure that these officers are safe in their commitment to protect and serve. And not only law enforcement, but as we've discovered, executive protection, and just a beautiful, beautiful journey that we here began with PTK. A fascinating mind, folks, that I love to talk with, that we love to talk with. This might be a long evening, but in a good way. Without further ado, we want to introduce Tuhon Erwin Ballarta.
Well, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. You know, I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you, sir. Part of this show is to be able to have a living record of not only who's the who in PTK now, but where our beginnings were here, at least in the States, and in the journey of PTK. And you're someone whose name has come up often as a first-generation student.
Well, I just want to let you know, I just want to say that, you know, all these things would not have been possible if it wasn't for, you know, Master Gahe, and then if it wasn't for my partner, AK, if it wasn't for Leslie Buck, all the guys that I was involved with, they make it happen. So they're pioneers as well. So a lot of stuff, we're in it as a struggle to promote the Philippine culture. And I just love it that we're all together, working together to make it happen. And to me, I'm seeing wonderful things as I see, you know, Master Romel, you know, doing wonderful things all over the United States and Europe and other countries. You know, Leslie Buck doing the same thing. And it's just remarkable how it's being received. And so I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the system, and I'm excited for the art itself and the Philippine culture. And I think that's important. You know, that's so important that we become mainstream and that Filipinos are, you know, seeing a very positive light as well. So.
Oh, salute. So exactly, sir. You know, this is a great opportunity because many have heard of you and now have the opportunity to speak with you. And so thank you for taking the time, sir. When we normally check in, we like to do just a quick status check. Where are you in the world? How are you under these really remarkable times? And is everything okay? You look great, by the way. So,
I've been indoors too long. I think I've gained like 5 more pounds that I needed, and so that's not a good thing. But on the other end, you know, staying engaged, you know, with the climate the way it is, I'm actually excited as far as opportunities. From the law enforcement standpoint, we're actually creating initiatives to deal with anti-human trafficking. And so can you imagine? So we're focusing on that. And along with that, we're bringing in people who are excited about this from the Hollywood and also from sports people as well that are excited to help and join in the initiative to deal with anti-human trafficking. And in addition to that, I'm excited about this. I know all these things that are happening, and it's about community. It's about really, I feel as a law enforcement officer, as the director of the Texas Police Association, that it's all about the community. The police cannot be separate from the community. The community and the police has to work together to make a better home for everyone. And that's an important thing. So one aspect too is the healing aspect. So we are also, through the Texas Police Association, we actually have a cultural diversity program that actually focuses on not our diversity, but what we bring into the table to make America great. Did you know that so many wonderful cultures, from Dr. DeBakey to even the founder of the elevator, so these people are people of color and from different countries. And so I think we need to recognize what we bring into the table. And rather than division, we need to focus on working together. And I'm just excited about that because I think that's the way it works. What do you think?
I love it. We love it. We love it. We love it. For us, we often say we believe the PTK community is a microcosm of the global community. And so just like you mentioned, the global community is diverse, and there's a beauty. That's what we love, each other's foods, for example. But then there's some things that are shared, and where can we find that commonality? And for Jenna and I, PTK as a diverse community, we want to find that commonality in the training, in the passion, like you said, for the culture, for the art, so that way during these difficult times, we know we can have these conversations with each other.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I mean,
this is the time, especially during difficult times, that we reach out, rather than sitting back saying, hey, you know what, I'm angry or I'm upset, or I don't want people pushing hot buttons just for an individual to react. I like to focus on, say, you know what, I love this country. I love this country. So what am I going to do to make it better? If people are being racist or biased, oh, by the way, that's another thing. We're actually developing an anti-bias program too. So to understand that people can be biased. But the thing is, every person, not just a white person or not just a black person or an Asian person or Hispanic, that's, everybody has a bias. And so I think we need to focus on understanding that we have biases, but we can get through all that.
Yes.
Because we are all actually one race, the human race. We are all together. So that's the bottom line. What do you think?
Listen, if you're just tuning in, first 7 minutes with the status check with Tuhon Erwin, we got to talk about real talk. There's no time to waste. And so I mean, at least Jenna and I, we love what you're saying. And I think that already there's folks that are agreeing with what you're saying. Really quick, my love, who's tuning in and listening right now?
Yes, we're so grateful for those who tune in to give support to the show every week, and we want to acknowledge the Nomad Kali Fitness Group led by MNG Royce, who was our guest last week.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we want to recognize the PTK Elite family. We think that's brother MNG Francis
and RV.
And then we also have the Citadel Combat Arena brother Morgan. Thank you for tuning in. And we have Kyle from the Elite family and the MSMB family also tuning in. And greetings to you, Texas Rob, as well.
That's Rob Slamowski tuning in.
Yeah. Francis.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Very good guy.
Yeah.
I've heard great things about our friend Rob. And so, we're trying to work something out with the show as well.
Right.
Wonderful person. Yeah.
Yeah. MNG Francis, he said that that you're a man with an immense talent and an even bigger heart.
Correct.
And I couldn't agree more. And so I said earlier with us talking that, having the opportunity to meet you this year has probably been one of my favorite PTK experiences, probably, one of my favorite seminars, just because even though you were, instructing in very strong subject matters, that required a certain level of focus, you have a down to earth disposition, and almost in a comforting way that helps us to really be relaxed as we're receiving information, and give someone like myself who may not have been comfortable with civilian firearms training. I was able to through my own discomfort and feel.
Jenna, you had a good flow. I'll let you know. I was impressed with you. So you had all these other training because a wonderful movement, because all the other guys teaching you that. All it was a transition to the firearms and the drills that we did. And, wonderful job. So, it was enjoyable.
Well, thank you so much. It's definitely an honor. I'm still going to continue to practice. But let's talk about your journey into PTK.
Right, because I'm about to start asking about transition into firearms, and I want to progress there. I want to progress there, sir.
Right.
Okay. Well, I didn't start in PTK. Actually, I started in karate and judo. And the reason I did that is that my parents didn't want me to play football because football was too dangerous. Because but I said, man, I'm fast. I could be a receiver, or something, But anyways, I started in that area, and then my father told me, so you got to learn the Philippine martial arts. And I go, no, I don't need to learn that. And then he said, Bruce Lee, look at this, Enter the Dragon. And he showed it to me, and I'm going, is that Philippine martial arts? And I was impressed. And so when we went to the Philippines, my first instructor, his name was Fred Tolentino. And all respect to Fred and everybody else. And the thing is, I think, in the early days, if you knew this martial arts, you actually used it. You actually used it in the streets of Manila or streets somewhere there on the sides of Manila. So we actually trained in using real knives for knife tactics. So no rubber. And then I come back after all this training. There's nobody knew how to practice Philippine martial arts. Nobody knew until I saw somebody doing a demonstration at the Philippine festival in Detroit, Philippine Cultural Festival. There's two guys. His name is Frank Ortega and Master Liagahe. So it was one of those things that, both of them were doing, maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes worth of demonstration, doble baston, and it was quick. And I'm going, oh, that's it, So that's how it started. That was I started martial arts in 74, and I think it was 1975 that, I saw that cultural demonstration. And since then, he would come over to the house. I would get private instruction from Tuhon and Grand Tuhon. And then from there, I actually would fly to New York. And I know people would complain that sometimes I would get a year's worth of training in 1 week, which is very painful actually to do that. So, but
I was actually going to ask, what were those early lessons? What was GT, teaching? What did it look like?
I like the way it was structured because he emphasized the footwork. He emphasized the way he was trained. Mm-hmm. And I was being trained the way he was trained. And so that's what I did. And I was hitting with my baston, I was hitting like a branch, just off. So we're timing. And so it was one of those things that, okay, so now we have the static, now we have the fluid, so, the control aspect was important, the footwork aspect, the body mechanics, twisting. And what I found out, because I was doing karate and going, my gosh, my kicks got stronger. I'm going, holy cow.
Wow.
Because imagine that, do a kick from a takeoff and like a front kick, all those squatting movements from your sidestepping, from your reverse triangle and all that. Actually, it's a byproduct. Your kicks become so strong, and then even sweeps, it's stronger. And then when you start training with pipes, using your because I train with pipes, and I train with rocks and shot puts, I found out that my punches was stronger. But then now I migrated from punches just to open hands. I very rarely I'll do a strike with a closed fist.
Right.
So yeah, but
You
it's
said
just
this-
remarkable how that transition.
You said those early days were painful, you know, years in worth in a week. I have an idea of what you mean by that. Could you please expound, sir?
Okay, so you know those 1,000 hits, you know, you learn, and actually everybody goes to the area of time where you develop blisters, right?
Yeah.
So that's one aspect. Another aspect is like with AK. You know, I know I'm going to tell you something. Watch out for those low strikes. He'll strike you in the groin area. You know, he's a good friend. But the thing is, he is awesome. I mean, you know, he's powerful. You know, so he knows those number fives are so wicked because it you know your angle of attack. Normally your vision is here, but these low angles are very devastating. And actually, later on, I'd like to transition and talk a little bit about the importance of thrusts. It's so, I mean, I don't see so much thrusting, but if it's applied, and thrusting is not really, you can be applied long, but it's a wicked thing when you're coming below radar. You know, on the number 5, the way it was designed is you thrust not forward, but you thrust in and to cut out. So it's to cut out, you're cutting out. And same thing with the number 9, you know, it's not forward, but you're coming in, and same thing with an 8. So those are the numbers, but I think they're so important.
You know, when I see that first generation, as you guys are known, Sparring originally, I feel more thrusting than I might see now in full contact. And I feel like I saw more, you guys doing more witiques. A lot more closing range with witiques than I probably see now, in my opinion.
You'll see, I'm going to tell you, one of the most remarkable person, and we fought every single time together, you know, myself and Tom Bizio. Tom Bizio is such a talented person. He's does Chinese martial arts, Chinese medicine as well. He's a very talented person, well-rounded. And, you know, I hated to fight him all the time. And we always ended up every year fighting each other, you know, whether in Chicago or New York. But the guy is solid, you know, but I remember the first Palarong Filipino, not Palarong Filipino, but it's the one in the World Kali or something, Eskrima competition in Cebu. Tom Bizio went over there, and we have footworks where we were doing, you know, low and high and reverse triangle and takeoffs. And there was a comment from one elderly lady watching this and saw Tom Bizio knee walking, going low and cutting up, you know, I mean, remarkable. Footwork and then cut up, and then he'd do his take. I mean, it's flow, right? So the lady said, that's the real Kali. That's the real Kali. Because they've seen that in the old days.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is that I'm going to tell you, in order to make Kali so that you can get ranking, you can get things, people started, you know, okay, what's common with that? Okay, we'll do karate. So you'll start seeing some of the Kali with forward stances. You start doing that. So they actually had a curriculum with belt ranking for Kali. And there was no belt ranking before. There was no ranking before. And so, you know, it's just to commercialize that, and you start seeing that. And, you know, I was taught according to principles and angles and so on. And that is really important. And when I was teaching law enforcement, it used to be, if a guy attacks you this way, you do this. If a guy attacks you this way, you do this. But I'm going to tell you something. Kali is based on principles. So a strike comes at this angle, can be treated with your empty hands, one particular angle. But if it's a knife, it's the same angle. If it's a gun that comes in there, you treat it the same angle. We treat according to angles, right? According to commonality of movement. So why do we, this is just me talking off the cuff.
Okay.
Why do we now engage in teaching according to numbers? Some people do that.
Right.
Because what happened is that when your mind doesn't flow that way, an engagement in a fight doesn't go from number one, number two, a strike coming here, then I do number two. You don't think that way. You think on reaction and you flow. It's a knife, it's a gun, you flow, you know. And so with law enforcement, we had to train that way so that an officer can react the right way. He doesn't have to, you know, if an attack comes at a particular angle, he treats it this way. He doesn't have to rethink that now you have to do it with, you know, it's a knife now, it's different. No, you treat it the same way, and then your flow with the firearm is the same, you know. So, yeah. So commonality movement actually had saved lives, and it's my basis for training law enforcement.
Yes,
so
sir.
It's important.
You know, that makes me think, and I don't know if this is the right metaphor, we don't remember our multiplication homework from the 4th grade, but we know how to multiply. The numbers that our teacher gave us in that moment are now irrelevant. What's more relevant is that we've learned how to multiply in multiple scenarios, money and measuring, and so
application.
The application, yes, sir. Before I get into the law enforcement, because you actually ended with that. First of all, I want to make a correction. I've been calling Texas Rob Slamowski. I think every time I've seen you on this show, I thought that was him, and he's clearing it up. That's a different Rob. Rob 28 is Rob of Modern Combative Dagger in Maryland. That's not, so I apologize for
welcome
to the family, brother. Yeah, he's got a PTK symbol, he's got Texas Rob, and so it's a compliment in and of itself. Doug Marsh is also in the house. Kali Doug.
Doug. Hello,
yeah,
Doug.
Doug alumni. And
wonderful guy.
Yes, absolutely, sir. So M&G Royce out in New York of Nomad Kali had a question for you. You mentioned Sifu Tambizio. Did you train with his teacher, Virgil de Carvalho? I pardon if I mispronounced it. Are you familiar with who Royce's teacher is, Virgil de Carvalho?
I didn't have the opportunity to train with him. I only trained with Tuhon. But I'm gonna let you know, me and Tom always fought each other. So that's how we got to know each other. Yeah. Our relationship is always fighting. I mean, but we love each other, okay? But you know, we're always engaging each other. But we would do drills together, but you know, but other than that, we don't have any other relationship, you know. But I would have wanted to learn more people. And I mean, there's a lot of wonderful people there in New York. And in the early days, I would go up there quite a bit, and I was this young guy, you know, and so no restriction, travel, you know, no care in the world, and just train, you know. And I'd come up, and he goes, okay, apparently they're busy, so they give me a pipe, and I'll just hit a tire around around the what is it, school parking lot, you know, on a weekend, and it's like 3 degrees below zero, and the pipe's sticking to your hand, and you're still doing it, and you know, you just do it. And then you go, okay, you just do it with your knees. Okay, good. So a lot of that, it's not just the physical aspect, but you know, it's the mental aspect, going through the pain, going through those things, and actually knowing. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that's, I think, very, very subtle about the art and about the way I was trained. I think it's just not the physical aspect, but also mental fortitude.
You know, when I think about traveling to New York to learn something, or whereas now we're a little more accommodated. People can go online, they can watch videos, they can Zoom, and you know, there was a time before all of that where there was only one way to get it. You know, and I think that said a lot to those practitioners who made that kind of journey to do that.
Right. And then also, you know, every Tuhon that we have spoken to, which is a little bit different from the instructors who are kind of maybe at a lower level, you know, they experience having to push past the pain of training and having to go in. And I think we've all kind of experienced, you know, our blisters and calluses that you get while training, but the application and the real life application we see is a little bit missing now. And I think it's such an invaluable training tool. And I think that's why the Tuhons are so clean and strong at the same time, you know.
A lot of foundation and making sure you could do it.
Yeah.
You know, when you started PTK, did you know you were going to pursue
about this? I don't know. I think I hope you just froze a little bit, but
All right.
I hope you're
stand
still
by.
on. But anyways, I'm actually excited about doing the things that I'm.
Stand
Are we
by.
back?
Yep, we're
Everybody good? Thank you.
Good.
Oh, uh-oh.
He's switching. There you go.
Are we back?
I think
Yes.
we're good.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. A little technical blip right there. I'm sorry, sir. Were you saying something?
I'm used to being censored, so don't worry. I was censored because I was trying to sell my coffee on Facebook, and I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh. But anyway, that's another story. But what you're talking about application, you're talking about, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Janet. So because we can be doing 1,000 hits and doing this and this. So what is the end goal when we do all these things? And I think looking forward, I wanted to find a sense of purpose with this, along with my objective was promoting a cultural aspect, letting people know about the Philippine culture and how important it is. And, all the wonderful things about the culture. But then on the other end, I'm going, you know what? I have an opportunity to make a difference and save people's lives. And so I instituted the principles of teaching and also some of the principles of footwork and body mechanics and so on in law enforcement. And so I think I'm just looking back at a minimum, I have taught over 10,000 law enforcement personnel and military personnel. So at a minimum. And so I'm excited about that. And then the fact that I was able to guard Lance Armstrong, or they asked me to guard Lance Armstrong. And he had a bodyguard in the Tour de France, during the Tour de France. And he was the national kickboxer of France. And so they replaced him with me. And actually, I headed his security for 5 tours, or 6, I think, Tour de France. So to replace somebody who's a national kickboxer of France. And then, one aspect is that, in our culture, or even in a good martial artist, is their ability to anticipate and also to diffuse a situation before it even happens. And so that's important. So doing that, and also our footwork and body mechanics and controlling sensitivity, using your forearm to guide. Remember that you're doing sagan labo, something like that. So that drill itself, when I was in a crowd in France, I was able to control people and without thinking. So I would be on a dead run. Of course, Lance is on a bike. Now he's coming back in. So we're in a crowd and we're clearing. And so while we're doing that, your training kicks in. And so somebody's going to come in. The minute you feel, you know how to redirect in a nice way. I had a guy try to put an umbrella through the spokes of Lance's bike. And so on a dead run, and so I'm not even looking at anything. I'll just overall. So you get the feel. You're almost like in the zone. And I did a foot clearing, and I stopped that umbrella from going in. And it was just on a dead run. So all those things that we're doing on a repetitive basis, on the drills, everything, sensitivity, I was excited that I was able to apply it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And then also when we found out that our governor in Texas was running for president, so then Governor Bush, he didn't have enough personnel to travel with him to protect him. And so he eventually became, the nominee. And so we were actually, we had to train up Texas Rangers, investigators, undercover agents, and highway patrolmen, had to pick the best. And guess what? We trained them, or the principles of moving, controlling, and all that was all a lot of Philippine martial arts, Pekiti. So this is the principles of that. So can you imagine? It actually, at one time in a hangar, somebody tried to come in and grab that time the governor. And these guys that I trained for that reacted in the right way. They didn't overreact. They didn't do all those things. They reacted, controlled, moved the guy, and we kept on going, and then watched for other threats. So it's remarkable. And guess what? That's the mindset in Pekiti. That's the tactics and footwork. in Pekiti. That's the sensitivity drills that we do in Pekiti. So those are the things I think it's a step forward where an application. So we did that for VIP protection. We did that for presidential campaign, and we're doing that for law enforcement and also military. So, and in fact, rather than doing running for the Army guys, or military drills, warm up, what we decided to do is gear them up, and then we would do knife drills on the ground using mount guard side headlock, and then we would also, passing drills on the ground. So, and that's the warm up. So, I mean, the intensity was good, but it's all that. So you can see how, it's the principles there, and it's validated. And I think that's important that that you have a gold in your hands, but people are not even recognizing it. But I know it is so valuable, and the tactics work, principles, I've applied it both from the military standpoint, protecting VIPs, and also teaching law enforcement. So.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
Thank you for that, sir. There's so much that I'm learning, I'm resonating, and I actually have questions about. So first, just to be in the position where you're being asked for executive protection for a Lance Armstrong or a presidential nominee, to be in the position where you're training. I mean, how did that happen? What was the process where, okay, you're training Pekiti, you become in law enforcement, and then you move into maybe defensive tactics, and you're just, okay.
Yeah, so what it is that when you get into law enforcement, there's an approach that I do when developing any program. I always look at it. So, there are systems out there that are wicked, really wicked, but all they do is take out people's eyes and throat. Okay, they're successful, but everybody that if it was stuck to law enforcement, all the people they arrest are either blind or can't breathe. So that's not a good thing. So the approach I have is: it medically safe? Is it tactically effective? And is it legally sound? So you can't have tactics that are not legally sound. And again, I have people showing me tactics, and I'm going, that's not going to work. And the reason I know that, because I used to fight full contact, and we would test these things. I would test, and so let's go do it, or weapon retention, let's go do it. Yeah. I'm to the point where we were doing drills on weapon retention drills using Sapphire Land holsters, the very first ones, and it looked good. And actually, initially, I got in trouble for having them wear the Sam Brown. I had them wear their vests. They issued the vest ahead of time, so they could feel it. And so now we have rubber guns or plastic guns, and on the holsters. And we would have actually grappling matches for the gun. And what happened was we tore up the holsters, and then get with another holster and get it. We tore that up, and then so I got in trouble because my supervisor said, "Hey, Erwin, we got to stop doing the drills. It's costing us a lot of money, with all these holsters." And so me being a cocky sergeant at the time, I go, "Hey, Commander, you know what? Send it back to Safari Land. Tell them they got defective holsters." And guess what happened? Safari Land did change it. And guess what now? We've got all these now infused, polycarbonate infused, guns now with all these different things. And they're using stronger material. And so now you don't have weak shanks. It's not just for looks, it's for functionality. It would never have changed if it was not challenged. Yeah. So that's what I was like, is to challenge whatever existing program you have, and let's check it out if it works. If it doesn't work, So that's how, and so all those things that we had in law enforcement, I had to use those 3-prong approach. But also I looked at things because, okay, maybe this drill for Pekiti is good as a drill, but maybe it's too complex to use in this fashion. So But like, for example, when you have a baton, like now there's a baton called ASP baton, Armament Systems and Procedures. So I'll let you know, in the early days, before Dr. Kevin Parson even marketed that product, ASP baton, he sent samples to Master Gahe and myself, and we tested it all out before it even went out. So we were testing ASP baton. And so I said, yeah, it's pretty good. So it would be nice if the civilians could carry this. But it was a good thing. But there were the technique was to there were more of a Japanese styles. If you have a blade, so you would cut and bring it back, cut and bring it back. Me as a Pekiti guy, I'm going, we need to follow through so that energy penetrates the leg. That's an important thing. One aspect that I found out is that if a person is high on drugs and other things, all these power strikes to the legs, it looks bad to begin with, and then people get emotional, and then somebody gets hurt, and then they'll take your baton away. They'll blame the baton because the person is inadequate. So it's the baton that's not working. It's not the person that's using the baton. So that's kind of like a crazy thing. So what we did is that we started teaching to angle off, not just at the leg, just go straight to the toes. And so I was looking at this from that standpoint, is going to court on excessive use of force by hitting a guy on the toe who was attacking. So I'm just saying, the toe is good, So, and plus, he can't run so fast anymore because you need toes. So think about that. How you have to look at those things, and so the functionality. So toes are good.
It sounds like, and just to bring it home with what Jenna was saying, with having a strong foundation and then bridging with application, you would identify perhaps the best Pekiti fundamentals for that agency or for whoever you were training, and then pressure test it and make it functional based on the environments that they would be in.
Well, actually, I would take statistics from Leoka. It's a website where you can go into it, and what it does is that you can see how officers are assaulted and how people are assaulted. Yeah. And so rather than saying, hey, this is a good thing to do, this is a good thing to do, you know what? I would say, how are people attacked? How are officers attacked? So now you create a program around that. So, and then also you would look at the numbers. So I was the head of the defensive tactics program for DPS, or the state police. And this is when I used to bring in Leslie Buck and all my friend Rene Rodriguez, and some of my other guys, RV would come down and help, with the group, because there's a large group. So while I was instructing some of the tactics, these are things that, they helped me, facilitate. But what happened was, you look at this, as far as training is concerned, I think sometimes people miss what is your ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is not to hurt somebody. Ultimate goal is to control the person. The person might not be in his right mind, might be emotional, might be drugged up, but your objective is not to hurt them. Your objective is to control them. And so that's really the key thing, is to be able to do that. And you can only do that if a person is trained with proper skill sets. So I look at the stats, how they're being attacked. I look at those things. And then, but then at the same time, I also look at human performance. We used to do, drills, 6 30-second drills where they grapple for a gun. And then also we know when in a punching, you can hit your threshold. So now there's threshold as far as when your lactic acid build up. So we looked at that. So all my instructors in the early days too, we sent some of them to Cooper Institute for become a physical fitness trainer. So they're physical fitness trainer. They're also firearms instructors. They're also DT. And all the reaction and all that stuff comes from the principle of Pekiti was commonality of movement. And so when I had the ability and the A-OK to do, what do you need, Erwin? I said, I want my guys to be there. So most of them are EMTs or paramedics so they know how to do that. They're also physical fitness trainers. They're also firearms trainers, and they're also DT. When you're a trainer, you can't have compartments. Firearms only here, DT guys here, physical fitness here. It has to be combined. So you have to work together. So, and I think that's, because in the fight, you don't go from empty hands, alone. You could be shooting or you can go empty hands, but they work hand in hand, and there's things change. And so you should be able to flow from one force option to the next. And you can only do that if the training is based on that principle.
Was there a big transition when you moved into executive protection where now it's actually you, sir, like your body in the midst of the crowd, or was it not a big leap?
The actual physical aspect was not a big leap, because you're in there, you're right. But I took us guys, we know how to maneuver and utilize people and resources, even if they're limited. So what I actually did is I would get out of the truck where all the team members are, and we have it cordoned off. And normally what I would do is to start talking to people in the crowd and identify which ones are Americans. And so I was able to bring them closer, identify people that maybe would be nicer. And then I'd identify the media people, and I'd put them in one area, and I'd tell them, okay, this is where Lance is going to be. And then but what happened is that I actually used them as a buffer. Even the media, camera, and everybody else, I use them as a buffer. So now I have one layer after the next. So, hey, you got to do it, So, yeah.
And like you said, medically safe, technically and legally sound. And all those three conditions should be maintained.
Right.
Up again. Did we freeze up?
Oh, I apologize if it's us, family.
All right.
Been a lot of Wi-Fi issues in the area. Maybe not, sir. I could definitely hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Could you take maybe that's, sorry about that. Hold on a second, sir. Stand by for 1 second, everybody. Okay. All right. Hopefully that will help. It says our connection is good.
And we're back.
Is it me or my?
It might be, sir. I heard you have fortified walls, and we know you're a survivalist, and you're probably transmissions aren't easily going in and out from your area. It's quite possible.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, speaking of Mandala RV, he did tune in and say hi, as well as one of our students, Rachel Pabalinas Masas, who helps us promote the show. Colleague Doug had a question. He wanted us to ask you about Oklahoma and Big Springs, Texas.
What about them?
I'm not sure, because I wasn't.
Well, I'm going to tell you something about in Oklahoma. There's two wonderful guys over there. There's Charlie Brown and John Boren. They were with the Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. They did a lot of training. And in fact, they did a lot of stuff with the Department of Energy afterwards. And they wrote the book on self-defense. And so one of the things that they asked me to go do is to fight them. They're all black belts. They're all this. And so I actually, fought both of them, or each one of them. And one of the things is that I remember at the end of the day, they're laughing, goes, Erwin, you keep hitting my hand. It hurts like hell. And of course, that was the closest thing. I'm a small guy. They're big guys. So the minute they came at me, I just tore up their hands. That was it. So, but Big Spring, that's Big Spring, Texas. That's where we used to do martial arts demonstration. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to all the guys who know Master Rick Riera. He's has passed away. But especially the guys in Europe, Czechoslovakia, and all those guys, wonderful people. Rick is, early day pioneer for Pekiti Tertia as well. And I remember with some of my friends here in Texas, Alan Lejuwitz, wonderful knife maker, and also again, Robert Slumkowski. And so these are guys that are really, really nice. But they did the stuff in Big Spring. We did our camps in Big Spring, Texas. And that's how I became a Big Spring police officer, starting out in Big Spring.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, they say Big Spring. I was trying to locate that spring. There's nothing. It's dry, and it's all desert out of there. So, but you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. The people are so warm. I mean, and to this day, I mean, I left, but there are so many friends over there, and so I really love them out there in West Texas.
So even though you were law enforcement defensive tactics, you also you were teaching civilians PTK.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
good.
we were teaching at there was a bodybuilding club or something, and we did training there in the early days, and so we did a lot of stuff, doing that.
I think we had Tuhon Leslie on the show not long ago, and one of the things he remembered training with you was that his first few years it was a lot of foundation, more of the footwork, a lot of foundation, not so much fancy stuff, and really.
You'll notice that with Leslie, his body mechanics, is impeccable. Timing is he's got that, and I think if you're going to emulate anyone, is Leslie is really a wonderful person. Not just notice I didn't say martial artist. He's a person, but he's also a martial artist. But he is a wonderful person.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Folks, if you're just tuning in, well, you missed a lot, so you should probably go back. But we are honored. We are here with our honored guest, the one and only Tuhon Erwin Ballarta. He gave us a beautiful understanding of his time in training PTK and how that transitioned into him teaching and training law enforcement and other non-civilian personnel. Earlier, you mentioned that you trained over 10,000 non-civilian. That's a lot. That's a lot. And I remember you saying, first of all, that's amazing. Thank you for your service.
Right.
But also, I remember you saying, and when I had the opportunity to meet and train with you, that you were able to create a safety protocol, because a lot of times you'll be in a workshop and there'll be a lot of people, a lot of trainees there, and you talked about how you help everyone maintain the responsibility of keeping safety in the training. And I thought that was so profound. And for me, who teaches like small little women's self-defense workshops, I utilize that because it's a lot to teach a lot of people who are unskilled at one time. And sometimes you can feel a pressure to be the only one to maintain safety. And that resonated with me. And so are there any other teaching principles that you use to, help maintain the culture of when you're teaching?
What I like to see, I put it in this little book that we have, that of course we have to do those things from a legal standpoint. So, each person has a role. You do a pre-check and then you do a post-check after the seminar, if everybody's okay. And in between, everybody's responsible. So, there's a lot of protocols, but I think if you make it fun and you identify that, you as an instructor will set the tone how you want to make it, and you could actually, when I drilled with each one of you guys, I could feel, whether you're going to be off a little bit or not, or, or this person's in control. And some people, there could be a wild card, go, just want to hurt somebody, and because you don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. And so this is where you set the culture and said, hey, we're not going to tolerate that. We're here to learn. We're all here together to work together and to be, brothers and sisters in the yard. And I think that's a wonderful thing. You are not competing with mm-hmm. each other. In fact, one of the biggest things that my philosophy is that, even with I would say, I hate to even say students, because when I was teaching, like, the groups in Texas, I never focused on developing students. I don't know I actually focus on developing instructors, mm-hmm. So you empower each one they have a vision of them being an instructor. That's what I saw with RV. That's what I saw with Leslie. That's what I saw with all these guys. And you, as an individual, you know, we're in this earth for a short while, and my goal is to try to make people, whoever comes close to me or in contact with me, I want their lives to be better when they leave, or when I leave one of these days. You know, it's just like. But the thing is, that's the way it is. All these stuff is, the material stuff is irrelevant. All these things are irrelevant. But you know how we interact, that's gonna live forever, and that's important.
What advice, two-part question, what advice would you have for perhaps beginner or not so beginner, you know, everyone's really a beginner, students who are, you know how it is, training Pekiti can be frustrating in the very beginning. What advice might you have for those particular students? And second part, what advice might you have for beginning instructors who are now excited and eager and charged with the responsibility to teach, but also still learning and have a lot to go? So
yeah, that's a lot. It depends what your goal is. Like I had multiple goals. One is to, my goal was to either fight, Warren Brown, a wonderful guy, again, at the Playboy Club at New Jersey, Great Gorge, New Jersey, when we fought there, or Tom Bizio, or AK. I try to visualize. Visualization is actually really important. There's a lot of physical aspect that we always do, but we forget how important visualization is for the combat aspect, right? And so if you believe that you beat this guy 100 times or 1,000 times, when you go and fight him, I already beat him. So mindset is really key. So there's that physical aspect, mindset. It has to blend in and work together. And then the third part, so you got the physical mindset, you got to develop that heart. That's where the philosophy of not believing in death, only life, not believing in failure, only success, right? Yes. No illness, good health. So when we believe in that, that's the heart. Can you imagine that the 45 caliber pistol this is the only martial art that a gun was developed to stop the people, because they didn't believe that they're going to be stopped. The mind is powerful.
Wow. Yes. And by the heart is another way to interpret that. This is something Jen and I, we focus on too, is having emotional stability, emotional control in the moment. You have the mind, you have the body, and then, like you said, it might be fear-based emotion, it might be rage, it might be anger. Even if it's justified, it's never really justified to actually express it, because usually
it has to be controlled, because if it's not controlled, then you are gonna lose. You gotta be in control of that emotion. So whenever I hit, I at that point that I hit, that thing's gone. Like bang. Once I make impact, or once my focus is that's nothing's gonna stop me from hitting that guy or getting in, because I believe that. So there's that emotional. And I remember, I watched the movie, it goes, emotional content, right? It's that Bruce Lee. And I'm going, whoa, exactly. You go, wow, emotional content.
That's beautiful. Salute to Tuhon Jack Latour, who just signed in. He said, sorry for the late arrival, but Tuhon Erwin is part of his PTK Mount Rushmore. Along with Tuhon Bill, and Majinu Tom Bizio. And so salute to have you again, Tuhon Erwin, on the show. And salute to you, Tuhon Jack, for signing in. Please go back, Tuhon Jack, when you have a second. We were talking a lot about Tuhon Erwin's past. It's just amazing. Sir, before
moving forward, I like to meet everybody one day, so it's like, one day we'll do something.
I think, sir, first and foremost, similar to you, we have to travel to you. The same way you had to travel, people got to travel to the mountaintop sometimes. And, it's being spoken about, sir. I think a lot of people feel it. Hopefully it'll be a reality, but having a gathering maybe at some time in the future, where especially guardians like yourself, folks who've trained with the Grand Tuhon from this generation and that generation, it would be amazing one day to have that so that we could really all meet each other person to person. I want to speak on it in the universe so it can come.
Yeah. No, that's great. I mean, you know, it's like I was telling you, it's about inclusiveness. It's about us all working together. And I know there's always politics. And I told this to Leslie and the other guys. I said, guys, watch this. There's only going to be a handful that's going to continue on afterwards. What's going to happen is that there's always going to be politics involved, but I'm not going to get into politics. If, you know, I said, you know, I'm in here to promote the Philippine culture. I'm in here to do this stuff for law enforcement, but I'm not going to get involved in politics. So as long as, and here's the kicker. And I remember this old man, he's like 98 years old, you know, when we were talking, and he was a Baptist minister and he was reading the Quran. And I said, why are you doing that? I said, oh, because it's good to learn about other cultures and not what people tell you. It's good to learn for yourself. So, and so it's about inclusiveness. So when somebody, you know, is upset with somebody, you know, or I would, can you imagine, you know, how important that is? But anyways, what he said to me, he goes, Erwin, if nobody cares who gets the credit, we can accomplish wonderful things. Oh, can you imagine that? Can you imagine, you know, that we're all working together on a common goal, and who cares? Who cares to get the credit? But as long as we get there together, we're all together, right? We get there together. That's important.
Yes,
but when we fight and divide, nobody gets anywhere. We get eaten up alive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sound leadership, Tuhon.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Absolutely.
Tuhon, a sparring question, fight question. First 10, 15 seconds of the fight, what you looking at? What are you assessing? What are you processing?
Well, I'm going to tell you something. The first 10 seconds of a fight will determine the outcome. So you got to be, yes. Did you know that? Yeah. If you're losing on the first 10 seconds of a fight, most likely, statistically, you're going to be losing. You're going to lose. So you have to be on top. When you first 10 seconds of a fight, you have to determine the outcome. You have to engage. You have to be 100. And that's why the heart's there, the physical, all engaged, all cylinders are firing up, and you're engaged. And in your mind, you're going to focus. You're just destroying that. You know, I the terminologies, right? So I'm going to use the terminologies. We're going to just destroy it. Just destroy it. Just burn the bridge and move forward. That's what it is. First 10 seconds, you burn the bridge and move forward. I don't know if you heard that before.
I had from GT.
Yes.
Cross the bridge, burn it to the ground. Don't look back.
Move forward and engage.
So,
Engage. First 10, and statistically, it is. First 10 seconds of a fight will determine the outcome. So that's why that is important to not, be wishy-washy. You be a wishy-washy, you're going to end up being a victim. When somebody's engaging you, you either go, when you're already being attacked.
That's it.
It's got to be turned on.
Got it. So in the stick sparring match, are you applying that same philosophy, or are you trying to read and now?
There's no reading because by the time he reads, you're already done. He's read you. I'm not gonna let the guy read me.
Yeah, I love it. Speaking of
attack,
that exact attack. Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't want to interrupt you. You were saying you have to attack.
I'm gonna attack. And so let them react to my attack, and then I know if I'm coming at a certain angle, they're probably gonna come, at one particular angle, and so you already know where they're gonna come from. So you should go. You're gonna flow to another location. You're gonna flow to another counter. Actually, if you're too busy thinking about a counter, you're done. You need to be focused on offensive, and we don't have a defense. I know we have counter offense, but forget the counter offense. Just offense. Let them react to you.
You're not playing the long range for too long. You're closing range.
I'm too small to play long range. I'm coming in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, remember, we're not trained for single attacker. We're trained for multiple attackers. If we're doing ranging and feeling, these 10 guys are gonna jump on you, beat you up. No, you engage them all. You attack.
Teach, Tuhon.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, and it's beautiful because I think, the energy that I'm hearing is that, there's a saying in Kali that, you remember to forget, you train hard.
You remember to forget because you gotta go. Yeah.
And so I definitely agree, do all these reps. I remember one time GT was teaching a seminar in Philadelphia, and we were doing like 1,000th rep. We did a lot of reps. And then afterwards he said, forget about all that. And we were like, what? How can you forget? And then we learned that no, in that moment, your training is for your training. So that way when you're engaged, it's
because he'll tell you that if you have to remember or think about it, you didn't learn it.
There it is.
So there's a difference between learning or being educated and being trained. Educated, you're gonna think about it. Being trained, you react the right way.
That's
Right.
right.
That's the big difference.
Yeah.
Right.
You want good training. So you can have an area on the education part with your students that deals with history, tactics, and principles, right? And then you have the other part where you actually train them the right way, how to react a specific way. So one of the things that I would even do for, I found out, so like I was telling you, I determined where all the stats were coming out, how officers are killed in line of duty and this kind of stuff. And then I went more specific. State troopers in Texas, we're engaging people on a bar ditch. We're having to fight people. So I said, well, you know what? And on a decline, we were doing mount guard side headlock, and then we were doing knife drills and somebody with a gun while the person was on a ditch. And so we're training that. And then another aspect is that I got in trouble a little bit because I turned on the sprinkler system. so we can make the grappling and drills muddier.
Yes.
And so now you're getting so you'll see the different environments. So we just challenge that. Yeah.
But getting back
But
to
they
it,
liked it afterwards. The reason is that I got in trouble is because they just seeded that place, and the grass is not going to grow too well. Yeah.
But the idea is to properly train these individuals to just do what they're supposed to do in that moment, not think, just go. That's what I take from that.
And yeah, in that moment, and then you look at the environment they're going to be in. You'll see. You can ask Tuhon Leslie about this, where we are on the side of a slope. I have the guys doing knee walking up and down, and then fighting on their knees. So yeah, and I have guys come in from California and train with us. And we would be training at nighttime in a park. We're doing things, and it might be close to below zero, and but a lot of people show up. And these guys from California said, "Man, Erwin said you guys are like hardcore. It's like freezing out here." And he goes, "So what? I mean, it's like so it is that we fight when it's cold, we fight when it's hot, we fight whenever." So the mindset's right. We can handle any situation. We fight in the water. We train in the water too. So that's the kind of stuff. We train in the mud. DPS does, So we do that. And by the way, I even spray them with OC pepper spray. And then then the guys, our Pekiti guys here, and then they still have to engage in stick fighting. They'll fight with OC in their eyes.
Yes.
So so it's going through. Remember, there's no pain, So you go through all that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Mindset.
Yeah.
By no pain, is that you mean that pain is a mindset?
Well, yeah, part of it definitely is because and I think the GT will tell you that sometimes pain is good. It feels so good, It's like jokingly, but it is a mindset on how you interpret it. Yeah, and even tasers, normally they would just take down people. I have guys now tase them. They can't. I actually before but on a side note. In the early days, it was called Tasertron. It was a primer using a 22 primer to shoot taser, these prongs, right? Then they went to compressed air. There's a company called Air Taser. And then, so this company came and visited us. And I was one of the first evaluators of the taser too. And I got zapped with it. And when it was only using 9-volt batteries at the time in the early days, they came to DPS. I said, I want to try it. I took one step and I went down, you know, I mean, okay, it was painful. And then they came up with this new thing, you know, new battery, better, stronger. And they said, let me try that again. So I think I got like zapped like 5 times, you know, different, you know, but again, you know, I always want to challenge myself and go beyond the pain. Also, OC pepper spray, we were testing different things. So mindset. So I think that's what I'm talking about, you know, getting above all that, you know, and winning. And by the way, people are always talking about survival tactics, surviving. We were never taught that. We were only taught to win. Right. We didn't survive, we win.
Right. Yes.
Big difference on mindset.
I'm sorry. I was in high school. I played football. We had a losing team at the time. We had a brand new coach. I'll never forget the first day he looked at us. He said, "You guys are good, but you don't know how to win. You don't know how to win." And he said, the difference between being good, he said, the difference between being bad and being good is this big. The difference between being good and winning is this. But it's this much harder to get to that level. Thank you for that. I'm going to bring that to the class.
Yeah, no, I'm glad, you know, I mean, you know, hey, we're just talking off the cuff here. So
yeah, we're just talking. Speaking of which we do have a question from MNG Francis on the floor.
Yes, he said, when you were learning the PTK system and principles, was there an aha moment for you? Meaning, was there something that, you know, Grand Tuhon said, or something that you might have, you know, been able to figure out that, you know, was able to make the system more clearer than it
helped accelerate or clarify your understanding, is the quote. Was there an aha moment?
I guess I went in for the ride, you know. I was just excited to learn something new every single time. I just had that positive attitude, and you go, this is exciting. And I remember some of the guys would say, hey, you know, Larry and a whole bunch of the other guys said, yeah, you know, we have to wait a year just to get what you get in a week, you know. And so I'm just excited to get all that stuff and then move forward. And at the same time, you know, I would say I sleep, eat, whatever it is, 24 hours doing the tactics. And even at nighttime before I slept, I visualized the tactics I just learned. And then I visualized applying it. So hey, that's how it happens. You know, I saturated myself with that, and you know, I hit the tires doing that, thrusting. So now, you know, I mean, whenever we do any kind of thrusting, you know, I mean, you know, I would take the tip of your baston, and we do, you know, thrusting drills. And by the way, the tip of your baston is the diameter of your eye socket, right? So when you can either tick it or thrust it, the tip, just the tip, you know, and you can do it, you know, on the flow randomly, and you can hit it. You know what? At a whim, whenever you're fighting somebody, you can always take out their eyes. You take out an eye, the fight's over. You know, it's like, or a nose, because you know, because that target is tiny, right? So that means you can pick any target you want.
Right.
Spend a lot of time with teaking and thrusting those tires, huh, sir? Yeah.
And you know how I talked to you about this, but I happen to bring this. This is one of our first gear. I stole this from New York, so you know. No, I'm just kidding. So you know, this is our gear. So you could see in the early days how you know, we tore this up with ticks. We tore this up with thrust. You could see some of the front area on this kendo gear that could sustain, you know, hits if you're doing kendo. But if you're doing Pekiti tertia thrusts, you can see it starts opening up the metal parts. Wow. And can you imagine how strong that is? And this is metal, and our thrust can open it up.
What'd that feel like when that helmet got hit? Was that like you heard the ringing? Did it protect you at all, or
you actually don't get hit?
I love it.
You know, most people are willing to exchange. No, because it's a knife. It's a blade. So when you're thinking about that, you got to move. So
The ears on that.
yeah, no, but you can hit, when you put the towels there and other things, they're cushioned, but very little. Yeah, very little. And, we had to improvise, because there's no gear for full contact. And we even had the first Palarong Filipino at the Philippine Embassy. We had to use shin guards, baseball shin guards. And,
Yeah, I've heard these stories, sir.
Yeah.
Filipino Embassy, I believe one of the things I heard is because that was the only place you could have a full contact match. Is that true? Is there a reason why it was at the embassy?
Well, it was actually, it was really nice because it was recognized. I remember Master Gahe was even talking to, who's that? The founder of Modern Arnis, Remy Presses. So he was, he would visit with the Philippine government as well, trying to get some initiatives. Then we're also part of NARAFIL, which is National Artist Association of the Philippines. So they're standardizing the training and so on, So there's a lot of stuff that was going on in between, but at the same time, I like the fact that we're trying to promote the Philippine culture and sharing it with people who don't even know we exist as a people. I know they probably know that us from being a nurse or something, or something like that, right? Or but as far as Philippine martial arts, in the early days, I would even say that I tried to compete in weapons competition, because we, just for demonstration, weapons demo or competition for that, and they even refused to grade me because I was not wearing traditional uniform. I was wearing the gala uniform in the Philippines, but nobody knew us. So imagine those were the days. Those days are over. They know us now. Wow. We're popular.
You had to really, you in that first generation, and the Grand Tuhon had to really, change a mindset. A world was so used to thinking what martial arts look like, and then, now PTK is it's global. Did you ever think back in those early days that it would reach this level?
Oh, I imagine it would eventually, but like again, I had to be. It has to be steady growth, right? But I knew it's gonna be. I launched a group called Arnis Michigan. Arnis Michigan, and it was and so we're trying to establish all these different things in Michigan. So that was our first group. That's where me and AK really started, and we would find a abandoned building that somebody would rent, or not even rent us, but allow us to use for training. And then you think, we'll have a bunch of people, maybe only like 2 or 3 people, but we get together almost consistently. And because nobody knew what the hell it was and nobody cared. So, but we kept on going. Yeah. So, but I think looking back, there's always a vision. I just want to share something with you. We did I went with GT to some kind of university in New York, and we did a martial arts demonstration, and there's only 3 people there. Okay, that attended. One was the one who hosted us, and then 2 of his friends showed up. And we were there, and I was like livid, the fact that nobody showed up. And I remember at that point, he goes, GT said that, this is a success. And I didn't think about it as success. He goes, no. First off, we got paid, which is good. And second off, we were better off than if we were just staying at home. We actually now made an impact on some of these people. Now they're going to talk about it. That the fact that we're one step closer to promoting it, and doing things. Even though, so imagine the mindset of positiveness. What it can do to carry on. So I think this is it's just a wonderful thing that it will carry on.
I love that story.
Yes.
And I'm glad you reshared that, because it's inspiring, and many of us do know that feeling. Sometimes you have one person in your group or a few people show up at the event, and it's not to be discouraged at all. It's just another step.
We're going to do wonderful things. There's going to be so many other things moving forward. And I'm going to tell you, I'm excited about a lot of these things that are some of the things that I'm planning related to helping people. Helping anti-human trafficking. actually the programs we're developing for inner city children. I'm just excited about that. Can you imagine how we can reach our youth in an inner city? I was one of those kids in Detroit that grew up, you know, and I could have been, you know, in jail. I could have overdosed on drugs. But I remember, you know, as a Filipino kid, after 1967, after the Detroit race riot, we moved from Canada to Detroit.
Wow.
And I was mentored. I actually had this coach, and I didn't know who he was, but he was a police officer. As actually through the police athletic league and inner city children, I could have been in trouble, but you know, I felt like I was that little starfish that somebody, you know, took care of, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm in a position now to do much better, to do other things. So there's going to be that initiative, and I have friends that are going to hopefully back it up with, you know, with financial aspect to it, and people influential, and we're going to go make a difference in Detroit, in New York, and every place else. Inner city, by the way, our youth is our future. So that's what we're going to do. So whether the initiative to do also sports, but develop character-driven success. And, you know, I think, you know, whether you're a beginner in Pekiti, whether you're an instructor, there's a lot of wonderful things that's going to move forward, that's going to give us recognition who we are.
Sure.
And I think that's important.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, it definitely takes a clearing of the space for there to rooms that needed to be made for PTK and we're in, you know, this mainstream culture now. And so, you know, us younger instructors, we have so much gratitude for the clearing of space that it took to, you know, for people to be more familiarized with it. And even though we still are, when we're like training outside and people see us and they have so many questions because they've never seen it before. It still is, we can still associate it with, you know, have you ever heard of Filipino martial arts? Have you ever heard of Kali or Nisa Eskrima? And people are still will be, you know, we have more people who are familiarized, and I'm sure, you know, 30 years ago. So we give thanks for that.
One of my students told me that one of these games, Tour of Duty, Call of Duty, one of these video games, you could now choose Kali sticks as your weapons option, or so. I don't remember.
Well, let me tell you, when you have you know, all these now Kali is being used in the movies quite a bit, right? So influential, and so Guru Daniel Santo was such a talented person. Much respect for him, and for what he's done. He's also a wonderful pioneer. My gosh, you know, when, you know, here's this guy, you know, so talented, and now he's promoting that. And by the way, all these other grandmaster, you know, I also trained with the Doce Pares, with Kakoy Cañete and Momoy Cañete. I trained also with the Balintawak system with Ted Buot. Ted Buot is the his instructor is Ansyong Bacon. Ansyong Bacon is the founder of the Balintawak system. Mm-hmm. And I used to train with him. So how I got to do that? Because GT told me to expand my mind and learn. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine? Mm-hmm. So I did that. And so you do that, you evaluate, and so I can talk about different things and different tactics because I've trained those things. And I think that's important. And I'm going to let you know, it was a humbling experience when I went to the Doce Pares group. Momoy Cañete was like 80 years old. Kakoy at the time was at 67. And I was a cocky 21-year-old, you know, that could do things. And every time I moved, I got hit. Every time I moved, I got hit. And I'm going, gosh, now I'm bleeding all over my head. Seriously. Mm-hmm. This is we did judo all day. So my fingers were all raw. And then at nighttime, we just did Kali. And at the end of the day, this old man told me, they're all laughing, all these, imagine old 80-year-old guys on the bench laughing. And they said, Erwin, it's not speed, it's timing. Mm-hmm. So in Masagana, you know, GT is also all about that too. It's about when you follow a strike, you know, when you also have the contra, you know, when the minute you make impact, you change. It's that timing. Yeah. That's the key. Speed's not timing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. That's when you get butt kicked by an old guy.
That's humbling.
It is.
Oh yeah, it's humbling.
And you know, and to this day, there's levels of speed some of these older escrimadores and Kali masters have, and I have to say so. Even your Tom Bizio, yourself, you know, young Tuhon Bill McGrath, the speed, AK, it's like it's powerful, but it's that timing. It's that timing.
Yep. Yeah, you know, Tuhon Bill McGrath is also a wealth of knowledge and the timing that he's got too. Yeah, AK, you know, all those guys, it's good we're all friends.
Yeah. Tuhon Jack Latour asked Tuhon Erwin, how much sparring have you been able to get with non-Pekiti groups? Speaking of sparring.
Empty hands or
I'm thinking he means empty hands, but perhaps weapons based.
On non, I mean, you know, I would have it's kind of one of those things to go, oh yeah, this is a cool thing. So I had this guy, you know, we would always test tactics and techniques out all the time. And so one time I had this guy, nice guy, he did a lot of choreography and fight scenes for the Walker Texas Ranger, is Carlos Machado. You know, Carlos Machado does a lot of, you know, MMA, you know, he's, you know, related to the Gracies. So he would come to we would talk about certain things, and then you know, we do things because I would host DT instructors conference, and so we get to try the things out all the time. So I think we could feel which one's working, which ones doesn't, you know. And so one thing that I like that what Carlos Machado said about Eric Noss. Eric Noss and him actually were grappling, and somebody said, you know, you guys are wicked. They grappled using magic markers, and so at the end of the drill, Carlos Machado's gi was all filled with cuts from the magic marker, and goes, "Yep, we got to change our system." So yeah, so this is wicked. But Eric Noss, another talented guy, you know, wonderful person, talented dog brother. Yep. So yep. So and Nick Papadakis, you know, guys, you know, the guys are so talented, and the thing is they're testing it. So when I used to go to California, and when my son was going to school up there, I'd visit with Nick and we'd discuss tactics and techniques. But then Nick's Pekiti anyway, so you know, I don't know. I mean, I trained in I worked out and trained and engaged the Doce Pares, and I've also engaged with Balintuak. So you know, I mean, it's interesting.
What were some of the big differences between those systems and PTK?
I would say out of all of them, if I was to, you know, because I always look at it in a critical way, everything has a lot of pluses and minuses, but the similarities they have is requiring timing on their hits. Timing is always, I go, oh, time. But what I like with PT, we didn't fight linear. You know, we actually fought high and low and angles. Yeah. And just when Tom Bizio was fighting in the Philippines, you know, with that world tournament, the first tournament with all the Kali guys from Doce Pares, Balintuak, everybody from in the Philippines. So I think we only sent one guy, which is Tom Bizio. one guy. And so Tom went in there and he actually took first place. Yeah. He took first place. But while he was fighting, he was engaging. So people had different ways. He was going on his knees. He was knee walking. He was angling. He's walking. Highs and lows. And they said that this older lady yelled out. He goes, you know what? That's the real Kali. That's the real Kali. So Tom Bizio, I mean, his body mechanics was remarkable. I mean, wonderful guy. And his highs and lows, and he took first place. So, you know, kudos to him. And, you know, I don't keep in touch with him, but, you know, I highly respect that man. So
that's beautiful.
Wonderful.
I want to salute Mandala Rob Pagan, who also jumped in. He's out in California.
Hey.
And Joe Scarcella asked, what other, and you've kind of answered it, but I still want to address everybody's questions. What other martial arts have you trained in?
So I did Muay Thai, I did Jiu-Jitsu, I did Shotokan, but I'm going to tell you the first encounter I had with Muay Thai, was actually at a seminary. I went to a seminary. I thought I was going to go in that direction, helping people and praying for them. And actually I had met some guys who actually came from Thailand who are actually going to become priests, Catholic priests. And this is the first time I actually got hit, because I was practicing also Shotokan and Taekwondo. And so we use our instep for the, mawashi or something like that. And so I got the guy used his shin to kick me, and he didn't kick my leg, he kicked my hips. And I'm going, I felt like throwing up for the first time. I mean, it was like wicked. So I go, damn, I gotta learn this. So damn. Damn, I gotta learn. So of course then, like anything else, we were hitting these bags filled with sawdust, so I mean, it's interesting. So I did that Kung Fu, and of course, I started with Fred Tolentino in the Philippines, at an early age when I was young. That's where we're, the first time we learned anything, he actually said, hey, we're going to do knives. And I said, we're getting a wooden knife. He goes, no, get a kitchen knife. And so as a very beginner, I mean, I never even picked up a knife, to drill with, but we were drilling with live knives. He goes, and his philosophy is that if you think you're getting away with this, and then, with a wooden knife, and then somebody comes to you with a real knife, you're not going to be sure if it works or not. Here, you're going to be confident. And I'm going, or cut up. Confident or cut up. So it was like, and of course, I did learn something also from GT, is that, what happened was that, I actually had my shares of little scars, because those were knives I didn't sidestep fast enough. We did use real knives, too.
I was going to ask that. Did you guys, the legend is true about the live blade training?
Because that's why, when you're moving, your timing's there already. So, yeah. And so, yeah.
MMG Francis, he said that Mandala RV would often allude to a story from one of Tuhon's machetes. Matches. When he constantly disarmed his opponent and the opponent taped the stick to his glove. Could you tell us more of your memory on that?
Who was that? I do remember somebody, like they couldn't hold it anymore because their hand is already, like, I think it's broken. So they did tape it. I remember that. Yeah. That's pretty intense, huh? But the sad part is that I think somebody tried to disarm him. And that wasn't good, And I actually, one of the guys at the United Nations, is a good friend of mine. He's Mark Cravens. He's since retired from the military. He's a fighter pilot before, and so Marine. But what happened was, before all that, we were going to college together. We're all roommates, and so he would train also in Pekiti. And I remember he got disqualified every single time. You know why? The minute somebody came in with the stick, he would control it, and then he would do a hip throw every single time, and he got disqualified because you can't throw. Now I'm going, that technique was very effective.
Right.
Yeah, no. I mean, the minute touch, bang, throw. Bit touch, bang, throw. Yeah. Yeah.
Can always learn.
Yes, definitely.
Rob Pagan is asking, will you be doing more seminars statewide?
I hope so. One day, I think maybe soon, maybe we'll, do something there in New York or someplace, so definitely do that.
That would be great. Once this clears up, we could talk to some of the instructors and have you, host you here in the Northeast.
Right. Yeah, we would love that. Yeah. So let's talk about Texas True Blue. Let us know about, your project and your wonderful work.
She just jumps right in. I love
She's really good.
Okay, she's good. So, I was gonna have a segment. This is beautiful. Yes, sir. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, I have a security company. I retired with DPS. So I have that company. Retired with DPS. I'm the director of TPA. Like I needed another thing, to to occupy my time. But what happened was an officer was killed in a line of duty, and his wife and family, they were raising funds because there's a gap of expenditures that's not covered by some of the benefits. And so I said, this is BS. Every time somebody dies, they have to beg for money. So I looked at something sustainable. I researched it for about 6 months and then started tasting things and, what's the right way. And so this is when I came up with this coffee business. And then I got it roasted the right way I wanted it. And I know some experts saying, hey, it has to be acidic and whatever. And I said, I don't want acidic. I want smooth and I want it strong, smooth and strong. So, we launched, let me get
Yes,
this.
sir.
So we got this, these are the bags. This is 10-8 breakfast strength, and this is patrol strong. And you notice that the badge is kind of torn up. Hey, it's the environment we're in right now. So, but we're gonna try to move forward. But these things, what they do, they benefit fallen officer spouses. But along with this initiative, I'm glad you brought this up because we're investing in inner city children. So these officers, rather than saying, hey, we're gonna go ahead and name a street sign about officer's name, in 10 years they're not gonna know who that name's, what name that is anyway. In 20 years they won't know. The kids won't know driving that street. But I wanted to create a leadership ethics course and name it after that fallen officer for that particular area. Now, so this trooper Sanchez that died, what happened was I found out he was a Marine, he was a churchgoer, and he would volunteer in church, but he had this love for children, boys and girls club, and he would coach there. He didn't have enough money as a trooper, but his wife was telling me that they used their credit card to buy equipment for the kids.
Wow.
And so this, can you see the kind of heart this guy is? For 4 years, he was doing this until he was killed in the line of duty. And so Texas True Blue we're developing courses. I had professors on character focus and ethic focus, character driven success. So we're not going to say, hey, we want to focus on the kids getting A's. No, we want to focus on the kids developing good character. The A's will come. Everything else will come after that, but the good character is there. And so along with that, sports company, I'm not going to say yet, we're going to create an initiative where they actually are wanting to be part of this, where we have sports program, part of this character-driven program for these children, for inner city children. And I feel that is so important, especially in this climate right now, that we reach out and work together as a community. But Texas True Blue, it's always been that way. It's not just about the fallen officer spouses, but about our children. And so we're going to make it happen. And so, yeah. And I had actually a person who's an actor. I've been on the 3 conference call with him, and we're going to make this thing happen. I mean, this guy is well known, and this sports company or product company is well known. You're probably wearing a product that they're having. So it's already 3 conference call. We're going to move forward. We're going to make it happen. So we're going to impact our youth. Yeah. So that's Texas True Blue. So I'm hoping, by the way, we're going to come out with in probably in 2 more months. It's a little delayed, but it's called Tactical Edge.
Okay.
It's it's darker, and it's also strong, but I like this tagline on there because smooth is fast. Is that right? Smooth is fast, and smooth is awesome. So smooth is awesome. So yeah.
Hey, folks who know me, I am a serious coffee drinker. Where can we order this? How can is there a website or?
Yeah, the website is it's TexasTrueBlueCoffee.com, and it's all one word, TexasTrueBlueCoffee.com. And moving forward too, just to let you know, we are also focused on being environmentally friendly, the next SKUs that we're building, even the K-Cups, we're going to have are 100% compostable. It'll be, yes. And so there's no plastic in it, even the ink, everything. We're talking about environment, and it's also fair trade. We're focusing on being kind to the environment, being kind to the people, the farmers. That are, again, we want to make sure everything works for everybody, and also at the same time, it impacts our community. It impacts people that serve us, and doing the right thing. So
yeah, and you know, and this is shedding light. Most folks don't know about things like expenditures for departments and appropriation of funds, and how, as teachers, we definitely know how much we come out of pocket.
Right.
You know, and you do these selfless acts just because they're the right thing to do. So
yes, and in fact, one of the things is that in the Indian nation, a lot of them don't even have benefits, and none. They die. The family is without anything. So there's some, it's not good. We got to take care of them.
MNG Francis is recommending the Patrol Strong. So I'm going to order that today. And I'm going to make sure I put the link in the YouTube for everyone else.
I do love this. This is one of my favorite, actually. Yeah, you're right, Francis.
Yeah. Tuhon, do you still train? Do you still grab your stick every now and then? And
I just did, and I have just a handful of people that I do, and I even have, to a point where at my work, since I'm at my work quite a bit, I even have some of the people that are working around there, like custodians and stuff. I would give them like a half an hour every night. So and so next thing you know, I mean, they've been training with me for over 2.5 years, 3 years. Wow. They're awesome. Yeah. No, I come at it with a knife. Come here, let's do this, and we'll just be out of the blue. You know, it's just like it was like, you know, picking it up. Yeah, I just love it because just keeps my timing right. So I said, okay, come at me now. You know, it's like not now, Kato. You know, but again, it's a wonderful thing. But you know, you got to do what you got to do. You know, and so we're just doing the flows and so on. But hey. But before I forget, you know, if you were saying, hey, and kind of tidbits, focus on footwork and body mechanics, right? The footwork is not just footwork. Footwork is to generate force. You'll see that, how important. And we were doing the wave, you know, like coming in, stepping out. It actually, you're generating force every time you're doing it. When you're turning, you're torquing, you're cocking, locking to the next thrust. So the body mechanic is key to be effective. Yeah.
Before we went live, you were sharing with me a little bit about the takeoff and your perspective on the takeoff. I don't know if you mind talking a little bit about that.
You mean all the, yeah. So we were doing like a lot of drills before, and so you asked me before, you know, said what kind of training did I have? You know, how was it structured? Well, I like the fact that I was trained the way, you know, GT was trained, you know, and a lot of footwork, a lot of big, you know, body mechanics, footwork. And I didn't realize, because I was, you know, I did karate, I did taekwondo, that one of the byproducts of doing that is now my kicks became much more powerful, because we would hit the bag. I mean, I was just pushing people like flying back, because just from doing the footwork and body mechanics. And so I think that's important, especially with the takeoff, you know.
Yeah, I remember you were saying about its use in the sparring, and using the takeoff in the sparring, you're able to really set up shots and deliver a lot of powerful thrusts after the takeoff, things like that.
In fact, if you were to cover a takeoff and go low and come up from a number 5 position, and you're coming, you know, you're getting overall, you know, they're up here doing this and you're going low. But imagine if you're like Tom Bizio, or the way we train, we're high and low and sidestepping, and you'll see initially it'll be hard to be effective until you get your timing. But if you get that, once you get your timing and you're effective with highs and lows, you'll be wicked. You know who's a wonderful person, an example of that? is Eric Nuss. Eric Nuss is over 6+, 6'7", maybe 6'5". I know he's a tall guy.
Mhm.
And if you were to fight a tall guy, you go, you know what? I'm going to go after his legs, right?
Yeah.
But he does knee walking. He goes low and then he stretches out like a cobra. Wonderful. I mean, if you look at it, he wonderful use of his the way he's built, and you won't be able to get his legs, So Eric is really powerful, really talented, and and of course Eric was with Tom Bizio. You know that, right? I don't know if you.
Sure.
Definitely.
I'm a tall person, so I've learned when I'm straight up, I'm more of a target. I have to, and then like you said, use my height at more opportune times.
So
always playing
if
tall.
you being tall, what's going to happen is that if your footwork, remember how you used to tap your foot, tap, left, then exchanging, when you're doing that, you're exchanging, you're tapping and then, just feeding, right? You're tapping your leg, right? Doing that. Imagine if you didn't move your leg when I was going after your leg, you're going to be off balance. So you as a tall person, you have to be able to move. So that's what,
Enforcement. Exactly, sir. Exactly. Tuhon, a lot of this show is about PTK unity, the future of PTK. And, we like to ask our guests, what do you see? What is your vision for the future of PTK moving forward?
Well, you know what? First off, PTK cannot forget GT. And I think that's the most important thing. And number one is, I think, you guys moving forward, you have to make sure that's taken care of no matter what.
Yes.
Okay. Number two is that in addition to that, whatever, when you move forward, I like to see that. I know it's getting mainstream, and I know with everybody doing seminars and doing things, it's going everywhere now, which is good. It's the digital marketing is wonderful. It's great, and so on. I could see that, with Jared. I could see that with Leslie. I could see that with Romel. So all that stuff, I think it's key and it's important. There's a lot more guys out there doing wonderful things in their studios and so on. But I like to see where. I guess I want it to be recognized also in the Philippines a little bit more, because you would see mainstream, you go there, people kind of like in the movies, there'll be a karate guy doing something, or it'll be something else, right? I want to see where Kali is, you see that on a regular basis, in the movies in the Philippines. I want Filipinos to be proud of their culture and heritage, This is important. I mean, who would know that even this art, protected the president of the United States, with all their team? Who would know that did that? We protected Lance Armstrong doing the same thing. All the other VIPs, all trained over, military and also law enforcement. But not just that. Look at this. Look what all the other Tuhons and all the other instructors, all of you guys, what you guys are doing, training people. So you guys are making impact. I know a lot more than we did when we were in the 60s and 70s, because people weren't even realizing, don't even know what we're doing. But now these people know a little bit. But yeah, I like to see that, and I like to see where we throw away. We'll have this group here doesn't want to talk to this group, and this group. You know what? What's going to happen is that it's about community, and it's about when everybody talks to each other. I think we accomplish great things, and that's what I like to see, is everybody coming together.
Yes.
Tuhon, last final question. If you could say anything to a young Tuhon Erwin, what would it be, sir? What would it be?
To a young me?
Yeah, well, Tuhon Jack had asked that of Phil Galinas. I thought it was a great question. What could an old Tuhon Phil say to a young Tuhon Phil? It's just an off question.
Well, I'd already lived by this already. Is on our days right now, it's a steady growth every single time. But on a day that we're about to die, on a day we're sitting on a rocking chair looking out, we're going to either say, you know, we accomplished wonderful things, or we're going to regret. And so this is the time, steady growth, steady approach, and all the things that we're doing to do wonderful things for people. So I have no regrets as long as you have a steady growth. But if you don't do that, you're gonna, at the end of your days, you're gonna say, I was never good. I didn't do wonderful things for people, and you're gonna regret that. But I'm gonna share something to you real quick, okay, and to our viewers. You know, when I was in college, I said, you know, I got a beautiful girlfriend, I got a nice car, yeah. And eventually I'm gonna get a job, and I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna be successful. I'm gonna have kids, which I do now, and then I'm gonna make my first million. Boom. Then I'm gonna want to make my second million, then my third million. Then I'm gonna grow old, and I'm gonna want 10 million, and I want to buy this and I'll buy that. Then eventually, when I die, all this thing is gone. And so I asked and I prayed. I said, you know, what is the purpose of life, Lord? What is the purpose of life? If I accomplish all these things, and at the end of the days, whenever I'm dead, I don't take it with me. It's not worth anything. And I keep researching, and I keep praying, and I never got the answer until one day I opened up a book in my philosophy class. I had an assignment, and I was to research the Reformation, and with Martin Luther, you know, against the church, right? And I opened up the book, I'm researching, and there's right there in front of me, it said, the purpose of life is. And I'm going, holy cow. So now it doesn't really like that. It's not living for yourself, but living for others. That's key. That's key. If you live for yourself, it dies with you. If you live for others, you make them better. You live in them forever. So think about that.
Right.
That's beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, we're honored that you took this time, sir, to speak with us. You know, acts of selflessness are not done for reward. However, we do want to acknowledge sometimes the people that do them. So thank you for, you know,
thank you.
Great interview, for what you've done for Pekiti, what you've done outside of Pekiti for civilians and non-civilians. I mean, I'm sure the audience could agree. Your mind, I think you said, the thing I heard you say often today was, can you imagine? You would often end things and say, can you imagine? I just find you to be a very visionary, forward-thinking oriented person, and there's a lot to learn from that mindset.
Right. And then also, you know, you inspire us because, you know, I was always taught, you know, as in my journey of martial arts, that a true master is someone who is consistently selfless and wants to always continue to learn and always learn more and make what they're doing even better. And so when we hear you talking about how you're going to do more works to better your community, it's so inspiring for us. So we thank you for being an inspiration to all of us.
Well, thank you. And I challenge you guys to, you know, I know you guys make the community better and teach those kids some of the Kali. Teach them, reach to them.
Yes.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. Get our youth involved. Do wonderful things with them. Mentor them in the same way.
Thank you. There's so much that we don't share on Facebook. Like you have to come to Philly to see what we do. But we definitely incorporate the Kali in our program.
Oh,
Kali.
Wonderful.
We live with Kali.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you again, sir. Thank you, the viewer, for your questions, your comment, and your time. This has truly been another great experience with Tuhon, Erwin, Ballarta, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yes, definitely.
Without further ado, loyalty, wisdom, respect.
Life, health, and success.
Salute. And we're off.